Hey guys, welcome to the Ink Lounge, our exclusive Sip and Script podcast. I'm your host and co-founder, Julie Mancini. We're going to take you behind the scenes at HQ and also shine a spotlight on our talented team of instructors across the country. Whether it started as a side hustle or a lifelong dream of turning your pretty letters into a full-time job, we promise to send some creative business vibes your way. So let's dip our nib in some ink and get going with our first interview. Hello, Alyssa.
Hi, Julie.
So this might never be heard. This is,
Okay, no pressure.
We'll see. It might never see the light of day, but we're trying a podcast over at Sip and Script. So we're very excited to have you as our first guest. So welcome to the Ink Lounge.
I love it. I'm so happy to be here.
I thought of you right away because I absolutely loved hearing your story of how you got into calligraphy, but we'll get to that in a little bit. First, we just want to hear more about you. Just tell us a brief description about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Alyssa. I'm an instructor with Sip and Script. I have my own side calligraphy business called Coastline Letter Co. out of Rhode Island. I grew up in Connecticut, so actually right down the street from one of our other members, Jess. And I didn't know her at the time, so just met her through Sip and Script, which is just a small world thing. I went to school in Boston, stayed there for 10 years, and then left after COVID, or during COVID, I guess, to be closer to family. Accidentally just stayed here. My husband and I now live in East Greenwich. We were in Providence for a couple years. And yeah, I've been an instructor with Sip and Script for almost 6 years, which is crazy.
Yeah, you're one of the OGs.
Wild, yeah, I guess so.
But so you grew up in Connecticut, but you also, did you go to Rhode Island? Did you vacation there or something? Like I know Rhode Island boating.
Yeah, our families have always, my husband's, my families have always been around in Rhode Island. Spent summers here, weeks at a time, sometimes just weekends. We'd come here, high school and college, just to like have the weekends. I love the beach. I'm a beach person. It's very evident in my branding and all that for Coastline. But yeah, I ended up just kind of settling here. At the time he was my boyfriend, but now my husband and my families now currently live about a mile from each other. So when COVID hit, we both were living in Boston. We were like, let's just go home for a couple, weeks while this dies down. It never died down. We moved into Providence during COVID and just never left. We love being near the water. And yeah, he is super into boating, got me super into boating, still, touchy on the fishing, trying to get into it, but he has to like get it off the reel and stuff for me.
Where did you go to school in Boston?
I went to Northeastern, so went there for 5 years. There's a co-op program, so I got to explore really what I wanted to, what I thought I might be into and see if I really liked it. So ended up switching majors a couple times, ended up in communications with a business minor, which tends to lean itself towards Sip and Script. And I'm actually starting a job later this month at KPMG in their marketing department. So we'll be out of the Providence office and with some travel up to Boston, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
News. You heard it here first. So is it going to be remote? You said it's in the office?
A little bit hybrid. So predominantly remote, but then a little travel to the Providence office where I'll be based out of. And then my accounts are in New York and Boston. So I'll be hopefully a little bit of traveling to both of those.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So getting into calligraphy, it was a side hustle, you said. So how did you get into that?
Yes. So full circle moment with Sip and Script involved, but I was invited to a wedding. I got an invitation to a wedding. It was the first one I'd ever gotten that was handwritten in calligraphy, and it was so beautiful. So I asked the bride, who did this? How do I do this? I want to learn. And she actually said that the calligrapher was going to be at her bachelorette party, which I was also attending. So I casually cornered this girl and asked all the questions I could about how I could get started, bought my own supplies, taught myself. And then another friend, a couple months later, asked if I'd take a Sip and Script class with her. So I ended up taking Jess's first class. A couple months later, ended up deciding to go on a limb and to see if I could be a Sip and Script instructor after teaching myself and seeing what the classes were like. And the next instructor hired was Allison, who was that original calligrapher who wrote the invitation for that wedding. And it's just like this hilarious full circle, small world moment where we were both, local-ish calligraphers around Boston and had this mutual friend and ended up both being instructors. And now we've had, so many great memories together. And it's just a fun little Small world, full circle moment.
Oh my God, I love that. So Allison DiMaggio, she
Yep.
is based out of Plymouth. And I also was a fangirl of Allison
Oh my gosh.
before we even started Sip and Script. And
Her
so
work
when
is
we're like,
incredible.
yeah, like let's add some instructors, I was like, that would be a huge get. And I'm like,
Right?
I drove down,
Oh my
we went
gosh.
out to lunch. It was like, I'd met her a couple of times, but she's
Scouted her. You
sweetest
recruited.
person. Yeah, she's the sweetest person in the world. So we were so excited. Where was Jess's first class?
Jess's first class was at Trident in
Mhm.
Boston. So I went with my friend Lindsay, who I've now done her wedding invitations. She actually did her own signage because she's a cricket queen, but she's always been like such a great supporter of, my business and loves talking, spreading that good word. So it was just so great to go with a friend and for her to support that, little side hustle that I just started and to see what it's turned into is just so fun.
So you were working full-time job in marketing, right? And
Yep.
you started the side hustle. How did
Yep.
that come about? Did you just go set up a business license? How did you get situated?
I don't think I set up a business license until I was with Sip and Script because that was like the requirement for joining. So it was the fall of 2016. So I was teaching myself. I had gone, to that wedding, I think was the winter of 2017. And so I just kind of was doing some stuff on my own. And then I think it was that spring, I had just started like an Instagram account to show people what I was doing. It was one like 100-day challenge that I was trying to post every day of
Mhm.
some sort of calligraphy work that I was working on. And it was a way to keep myself accountable for keeping my practice up and doing something that I love and just kind of grew out a little bit. And my friends wanted to follow along and made its way to my hometown. Some people from home, a girl that I went to elementary school with actually asked me to do her wedding invitations to address them out. And I'm sure I charged, like $1 an envelope or something like that. And it was such a great, learning experience. I did everything down to the RSVP envelope by hand. So no stamp, no digital, anything. So that was the first and last time I ever did that.
Yeah.
Little tip for anyone anyone
How
listening.
big
If there's
how
anyone
big
ever
was
going.
that wedding?
Oh, it was probably like 100 invites or so. So
Okay.
it took me a long time, but it was also such a good practice learning experience of like how to, get the right setup for my envelopes and spacing and, planning out an envelope and all that stuff. So it was a good learning experience all around and definitely upped my pricing after that.
I
So,
was gonna say the biggest thing would be like how to learn how to price.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's something I'm still learning. And it's hard as you grow your calligraphy business or any business to up your prices. And I try to do that, every year, just incrementally as I have to, sit back and reflect on what I've learned, how I've grown, how my services have grown. And you learn, that your time is worth more than anything else. So something like writing out a full RSVP envelope by hand is probably not worth your time or money. So finding a way
Mhm.
to digitize that or designing a stamp for your client is a really great way to do that, and another little upcharge. So there's definitely a lot of ways. I'm probably the worst at undercutting myself, I would say. I think I undervalue some of my stuff, and I definitely was back then. But the Sip and Script community, all of our instructors are such a great resource for like how to price something or, making sure that you're competitive in terms of everything. We're so transparent with each other about what we're charging,
Mhm.
which really helps to keep keep things competitive and consistent across the globe or, the country, but also making sure that we're not selling ourselves short.
Exactly. And you got your first calligraphy job from your friend?
Yeah, so it was a classmate, so I would say someone that was just following along and,
Okay.
back in the day, I was the girl that was, like, writing everyone's name tags and, like, locker tags and everything in school, so she, like, literally remembered that I did that and was like, "I remember how neat your handwriting was and how much I loved your, like, bubble letters and would love for you to do my invites." So,
So
it was
you had cool girl handwriting?
I guess so, I guess so.
Yeah, because that was one of the things with calligraphy. Everyone's like, "Oh, you must have the most beautiful handwriting." And a lot of times people do, and you can kind of see it in their
Sure.
calligraphy, but a lot of times people don't, and they don't even
Right.
think about it. And you're just like using another part of your brain when you're
Yeah.
drawing these letters instead of writing it.
Exactly. It's more lines and strokes than letters. And I think that's something we always say in class is even if you have bad handwriting, it's not, a deal breaker for you doing calligraphy. It's all about slowing down
Mhm.
and being a lefty too. I feel like I've always had such an attention to detail with my writing because I would mess it up so often just by writing over it. And so it makes it easier for me to just like notice and do things as I'm going, a little bit more carefully.
Okay, so you're one of our most famous instructors being a lefty, because we do get that question so
We
many
have a
times
couple
when
lefties,
people,
yeah.
yes, but like you started it all with sip and script. I think you're our first instructor who's a lefty. When you started teaching yourself calligraphy,
Mhm.
how did you even get past that?
Oh my gosh. It's so hard, especially because so many videos online that you're learning from are done by a righty.
Yeah.
But I think as any lefty can tell you, we're used to learning by mirroring. So seeing another lefty write is super helpful for me to just kind of see like, okay, you can angle the page this way. You can, put your hand underneath and angle your hand a certain way to make sure you're not dragging your hand through. But I think too, we have, I don't know if it's every lefty, but certain lefties I know learned the same way as me, where I almost wrote in mirror. So I would write all my letters backwards and from right to left instead of left to right, because that's how I would see it when I was looking at someone else do it. So I think because of that, it's easier to transcribe, something that I'm seeing into my own writing. But so videos were a huge thing for me when learning. I've had so many people come into my class and say, I took this because you're a lefty and I want to learn from a lefty. And I think it's just really easy when you're seeing someone do it in person, how
Yeah.
to, hold your pen and the different angles and tweaks we can do to help lefties succeed in calligraphy.
Yep. I remember I bought the calligraphy kit and was going to teach myself on YouTube. And I just can't, like, my brain could not figure out the mirroring. Like, I was the
Yeah.
opposite. Like, I couldn't do
Oh,
it.
that's
So
funny.
it wasn't until I took a workshop. It was like a 3.5 hour workshop. And it was great. But I felt like after 3.5 hours of writing, I would have been the same if I had taken a sip and script for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like you're getting ink flowing through your nib. You're getting the confidence to like be able to practice again.
Right. And frankly, doing 3.5 hours of calligraphy is going to tire you out, even if you are a seasoned calligrapher. So if it's your first class and you're jumping into it with like probably a couple breaks in between, but your hand, like it takes time to build up that muscle and like the stamina to write for that long. So that's intense.
So, how would you describe your calligraphy style?
I would say my calligraphy style is modern, with like an airy and bouncy feel. My business is called Coastline Letter Co. So I try to pull in like things that feel like waves and the ocean and kind of fits that nautical type coastal style. But I try to fit it to however my clients want my calligraphy to fit into their own style. So if it's a more formal event, pulling in more flourishing, pulling in a little bit more detail. And then, if it's a more casual event, you could do something a little bit more just simple, I think.
Yeah.
So I try to just like make it fit whatever the client wants.
I think the biggest thing is to have your Instagram account or your TikTok where it just shows your writing, because not
Mhm.
everyone's going to fit with the bride. I love how you're like, I can get with their style as well. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, your writing is your writing. So
You're
you
not
kind
going to
of
be a
like,
fit for everybody.
yeah, if someone, I remember, because when I would do weddings, I'd be like, just look at my page because my style is a little more fun. It
Yeah.
was posh and prep, but
It
like,
is
I
fun.
definitely had fun and I hated rulers. Nothing was ever lined up, but that's
Mhm.
also kind of like what what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
So there'd be some brides where like, well, it's a very formal affair. Of course, when you say yes to everything in the beginning, and I would take out the ruler and it would just add on 15 hours to the job. Has to be straight, has to be perfect, can't
Right.
be bubbly. So it's
Oh
nice
my God, so
when you
funny.
finally are just like, you know what? Just take a look at my website, take a
This
look at
is
my
my
work.
niche. Yeah.
Yes.
If you're, a bride in Rhode Island or like you're getting married on the water, like I'm probably your girl. I have some vineyard weddings coming up. I have some garden party at the marina was a theme of one of my weddings last summer, which was so fun. So it's just like hearing that and knowing the bride's style and the aesthetic and seeing all the other things that they have pulled in. I feel like calligraphy is such a perfect way to like incorporate that style and put it into literal words, to
Mhm.
show your guests kind of what the aesthetic's going to be.
So what is your least favorite letter to write?
Oh, either uppercase F or uppercase Z. They're too printy, like they feel like too much of a
Yeah.
print to me than a script, and it just doesn't fit my style. I don't know. I just don't love them.
So you got married last year,
2022, so it'll be,
2022.
yeah, it'll be a year and a half next month. So we are
Awesome.
living the dream.
When you did your wedding as a calligrapher, is it easier or harder to do your wedding? Because obviously people would think, oh, she did her own invitations. She did
Mhm.
all of the lettering herself. But I feel like that's like kind of awful at the same time to have full control over that.
It is a double-edged sword to no end. Started my invitation design part of my business probably like a year or two before I got married. So I didn't have a ton of experience. These things, I'm doing them all bespoke. I'm not, using any templates or anything. So it's very from the beginning to the end is all custom. And
Mhm.
so starting from a blank slate can be really, really hard, especially if you have, a good idea of what you want or you have a theme for your wedding, but you just don't know how to convey it in your stationery. So we had an idea of what we wanted, but I think it's really hard. And a lot of my brides come to me and they say, I want, coastal, but not nautical. I want it to be like on the water and beachy, but not like sand dollars everywhere and everything like that. And that's a really hard like balance to toe. And that's one that I think we found with ours. And I really was excited about. So I really loved our invitations. There's things I think at this point I would have done differently, which is so sad because it's only been a year and a half. And then I think the hardest thing for me was the signage because by the time you are in the throes of wedding planning and you're a month ahead of your wedding, it's time to like get your RSVPs and set up your table and do your seating chart. It's like crunch time for everything else. So that was really, really hard to, just jump in. And I think I would have done a lot of things different from my signage perspective. I loved our table signs. I loved our in memorial signs. I would 100% do our seating chart differently. I could go into a saga on this if you'd like to hear it, but it is kind of like insane. I don't have a single picture of my seating chart for my wedding, for my own wedding.
Why?
And
Because you
so,
just said, don't, I don't want to look at it ever again.
well, it was a couple of things. The first part was I have a big thing about keeping my seating charts organized. I want to make sure that they're not only beautiful but functional because they
Yeah.
have to tell people which seat to get to, right? So I had mine built in alphabetical order. I had all of my place cards in alphabetical order. I had this, beautiful cork board that my husband built with copper edging, which we still have and we've used for other weddings. So that makes me feel good. But all of the cards, they were navy cards with gold writing. I loved them so much. They had like copper little pins. And midway through getting ready for my own wedding, the planner comes through and she's no longer there. So I'm not dragging the venue or anything like that. She comes in and says to me, we can't find your place cards. And I said, oh my God, I'm the calligrapher. What do you mean? You can't find my place cards. And my mother-in-law came to the rescue and realized that they were putting the place cards on every table plate. So like at every seating, they were deciding who's going to sit where, first of all. They were going to say this, rather
Yeah.
than, like a seating chart, you pick your seat when you get to the table.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted. We wanted people to pick their seat, be happy, like talk to people they didn't know. We did, family style food. I'm going on a tangent. Then they had to go back and collect all of the place cards off of the plates and put them on the chart. And obviously they weren't in alphabetical order, they were in table order at that point. So people didn't know what table they were. They were
Yeah.
looking for their name. And they put the seating chart in the dark when people were coming in from cocktail hour, so they couldn't really see it. And so I have no pictures of it because it was dark and it was kind of a mess. And I probably didn't want to see a picture of it because it's still something that's bothering me to this day. So I think that's just like I would do that differently. And, that's, a testament to working with a planner or working with a calligrapher that's capable of doing setup on the day of, not the bride
Yeah.
herself. So yeah, definitely learned some lessons.
You're like, it doesn't keep me up at night. Do you have a picture of while you're working on it? Do you have something on your phone? Because it
Yeah,
sounds
I
really
think I
pretty
have
though.
some pictures. I mean, it was beautiful. I think I have some pictures from like before we maybe when we were like mocking it up, but then I also have pictures of it being used at our venue for another wedding that's set up just as beautifully. So I'm like, it's a redemption. I learned from it. The venue learned from it, I'm sure.
Oh my God. Yeah, definitely send us a picture of that too.
I will.
One question is, have you ever wanted to quit calligraphy during one of your calligraphy jobs? I feel like every single
Um,
calligrapher, or you're just not doing it right.
yeah, right. I mean, we all say yes to things that are either out of our scope or like too much. I think one that I had this summer that ended up being one of my favorite jobs was this super specifically color coordinated watercolor place card job.
Mhm.
And it was with a planner, so I'm a little bit removed from the bride and I'm just kind of like given, this is what you're supposed to do. It's like, okay, great. It's certain colors. I think it was magenta, violet, teal, and orange or tangerine. So very specific. And I'm like, okay, the violet and the magenta, I got confused at one point, so started writing the names in the wrong color, and it was watercolors, and it was my tears, like all on the place
Yeah.
cards, because it's just like I have to do all these over. Like, this is just, there's no other way around it. And I think it ended up, I don't remember if I ended up doing them over or if we decided the color was close enough. And then I had a different watercolor that I could use for the violet that was more plum, and ended up working out fine. But it's just one of those, like, I can't stop, but I have to now do twice as much work that I thought I did.
Yeah. When that happens, how much extra paper did they give you? Like, what kind of paper was
Yeah.
it?
It was actually really cool. It was these like 3x3 cardstock pages, so super easy, not super expensive.
Yep.
The hardest thing though is just watercolor takes longer than, regular calligraphy, at least from my own perspective. It just, each card probably takes twice as long. So it was like, oh my gosh, I did all this and now I'm gonna just have to do it over again. It wasn't more of a supplies,
Yeah.
it was a time thing.
Oh, so you were doing brush lettering?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was going to say it dries quicker, much quicker, but the fact that you're writing it out with a paintbrush
it just takes longer. Yeah. And I feel like I have maybe I'm more of a stickler with myself on the, like, how it looks, because you're not only focused on, the line and the script you're writing, or the stroke, it's like how pigmented is it? Are you, dipping at the right time to make sure it looks cohesive and all that stuff. So as a lefty, I feel like it's easier to mess up on watercolor than it is.
Watercolor is like a whole different game. Like when I was home with the kids and wanted to do something creative, watercolor was actually the first thing I picked. And I was like, you know what? Like I saw it on Pinterest. I was like, I could do this. Like I'm crafty. I like art.
Like lettering or painting?
Just paint. Like it was probably just like florals, just like playing around with it. And then it was one of those things where I started doing lettering with it. And I was like, oh no, lettering is much more my speed. Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh, calligraphy. Like I used to play around with the felt markers when I was a kid. Yep. And then I saw, just the dip pen and the, nibs. And I was like, well, that looks really hard. Like I think calligraphy is the most intimidating thing ever. Something so simple.
Well, it's just like so not intuitive. And I feel like we see that in class when people, like, no shame, people will hold the pen upside down and be like, do I put the nib in the thin side? And how does it write? Is the nib the right side up? So we like go through the whole anatomy lesson because you need it. Like I remember when I didn't know how to do it until I saw a video.
All right. So let's see. What generation are you?
Ooh, I am a millennial through and through. I think one of the other questions you sent was, am I on TikTok? And I am, but I am definitely still in my trial and error. I am like an Instagram girly, like early adopter of Instagram, can't really get away from it, but I'm trying on the TikTok. I'm trying to like not be as perfect and polished. I feel like that's what, Instagram makes. It's, very curated and pretty. And like, I'm just going to post a video of me like cleaning out my office on TikTok and see what happens,
Like if you also notice, the follow-up question is, are you good at TikTok? Because I'm like terrible. I'm trying to get into it. Meg's amazing at it. She does all these crazy things. And so I feel like with TikTok with me, I either like go on it for like 2 days straight where you just like
can't stop,
hamster reel, and then I just like shut it off and like don't open it for like 2 more months. And then you can tell, like Meg can tell when I'm on it or not. It's like homework for me, because she'll just like send me videos and I'm like, I was like, some of them I like don't open for like 2 months. And then I'm like, so now I like do a better job just to like check in. So like mom knows that I'm like on TikTok doing my homework.
Doing your homework. Gold stars.
Yeah. But I also like TikTok because I feel like you can organize your office. And I feel like it's more like, obviously there's a bunch of inauthentic influencers who are just like click for likes, whatever. But I feel like TikTok is like house hunters where you just like love watching people doing stuff.
Right. Like, you want the behind the scenes. Like you want to know what goes on. Like this, I feel like this podcast is one of those things where it's like, no one's gonna go out and ask me what my day in the life is like, but they might watch it. They might, care once they see it.
Like they didn't know that they would love hearing about your day-to-day life. And
it's riveting stuff.
They didn't know they were missing out on that. And that was another question, because this was thrown in just for me, because every day I'm like, what the hell do I make for dinner?
Oh my God. Yeah. I hear
What do
you.
you like?
One
And
of the
it's
hardest
not
questions to
takeout. That's why I was like, what is this? What is something you like to make at
make.
home
I
and cook?
know.
Do you cook or does your husband?
He's honestly more the cook, which is great. I like to do the dishes more, which is, I never thought I'd be that person, but here we are. One of my favorite things he makes is homemade Crunchwrap Supremes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can like fill it however you want. You can do, put whatever you want in it. So that's always a good one. We do like like homemade nachos and stuff like that. But in season when he's fishing, love like when he can come home with something that he's caught and we just do like fish tacos or something like that because it's just like so fresh. So that's like favorite, treat meal, I would say, if we can, get something in the summer. But it's not that season right now, so we're having a lot of crunch wraps.
Okay. And how often does he catch fish if he goes fishing?
He'll try to go out like every weekend in the summer, and like if he catches something is, up in the air, so probably like every other week we'll do that. So it's all for fun. He doesn't like do it for a living or anything like that.
Babe, you're doing great.
Yeah, great job catching us dinner.
And then what is your favorite season for being a calligrapher?
Wedding season. Duh.
Wedding season. You like that? I absolutely hated
do.
that.
Really? Oh, I love it. I mean, it's just like, it's fun. I don't have time to like think about anything but what's in front of me, which is kind of fun. I think I get a little bit emo in the off season when I'm like, oh, I could have been doing more, or I'm a little hard on myself when it comes to that stuff, or like comparing myself to what everyone else is doing and all that. I do love the off season because it means I can teach more, do a couple more calligraphy classes. I do just love like the crazy chaos of, having a wedding every weekend. It won't be like that this summer for me, which I'm excited about, but being able to just like focus on a certain bride's wedding and like really get in the weeds with it and, see the final thing and be really excited about like having her day be perfect or their day be perfect. And it's just fun. I like that part of it, but
That's good.
yeah.
All right. So getting into Sip and Script, you joined, what year did you join?
I had to do the math. I literally went back in my email to like,
I don't even know when
it was
started
2018. So my first class with you guys I took in 2017 and then taught in 2018. So 6 years this spring.
You've gone to pretty much everything for Sip and Script.
All but Austin. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Austin was like a whole new, we were traveling the wild, wild west going to Texas. So
oh yeah, it was like a road trip, right? You did a couple different stops.
Yeah. Flew into Dallas, then drove to Austin and then drove to San Antonio. So that was, we rented a car. We couldn't think of renting a van for that. We did rent a van for Philly.
That was my answer. My favorite one was Philly because of strictly the road trip and listening to the Casey Musgraves Holiday album and the Airbnb ridiculousness that came up from that trip.
Yes. During our Philadelphia trip, the owner of the Airbnb did not check his mail, and the city of Philadelphia said that they were shutting off the water in the neighborhood, Fishtown, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, it was while we were there, and there was like 6 of us staying there,
including a pregnant woman.
Yep, Katie. So sorry about that. But so we were in a beautiful, what were those like, what was it called? There was different floors. Yeah. So
row house.
Yeah. So it was basically just, I can't even, it's like not suitable for work. But yeah, we basically didn't
move. A sanitary emergency.
Yeah. We're like, just go to a different floor. I don't know what to tell you.
We're like, we got to go to Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know.
Yeah. And we paid in full for that Airbnb too, because the guy was like, not my problem, but that's like a whole other story. If you're ever in an Airbnb where something wrong happens, just contact Airbnb and they'll move you in 1 second. And of course, we're like, oh, let's believe in humanity and just tell him, something's not working.
Right. And maybe he'll actually care.
Yeah. But that party was really fun too. That was during Christmas time. Yeah. Philly launch party was fun.
What was the bar? Was it Bill's? It wasn't Bill's bar. It was someone's name.
And I just remember walking in with the balloons through the doors. Like everywhere we'd go would just be the balloon arch.
We've gotten so much better at our balloon arches over the years too. We didn't do one for no, we couldn't have done one for Nashville.
No, because we had the bus.
Right.
And we did hotels. Like, I don't know. I feel like we go in between stages of like getting an Airbnb versus like sometimes you like appreciate a hotel. And you're like,
yeah, it was nice. I liked it. But I liked when we were all under the same roof too. And it was just pure chaos. Where's our next trip? Do we know yet?
We gotta figure that out.
Well, we have summer camp. We have summer camp at Allison's, which is
I was
gonna be
gonna say
amazing.
that is gonna be amazing. Like, I feel like we're just gonna like sell tickets to it to the Publix one of
We might-
these times of like, join us at
People
the
would
Dahlia
come.
dinner. I want to like throw a wedding there and like get a tent, rent a dance floor. Like
Wait,
her neighbors
wait.
seem pretty cool with it.
We could do like a mock like a fake wedding, but then we can like, I know we're all calligraphers, so it'd be hard to like compete for the, like everyone does one place card or something, but like, how fun would that be?
Yeah, I would
Work
let
with
all
all
of
the
you guys
vendors.
do all of the calligraphy for that. That's
Yeah, you're like,
totally fine.
I'll manage the footage. I don't know. What would you do? You could do that.
No, I'd MC it.
Meg would do that probably. Yeah, you would be the officiant.
I'd be the DJ. Yeah, I'd be the DJ with this thing that doesn't work and made the light flicker the whole time. Like, I honestly don't know if this is like, thank God for Zoom, because again, not sure if this is going to see the light of day. We could try to capture this magic again after if we need to. Last question is, what was the most memorable guest at a Sip and Script event? It could be good or bad.
My favorite, and I tell this story in class, so if you've taken a class with me, you've probably heard it, when a gal spilled her ink pot in her friend's purse.
No. And did we ever find out if they're still friends?
She took it really well, like surprisingly well. And
because it was a public
it's not like
setting.
a cautionary tale of like, put the things you love away. Like ink gets on everything at some point or another. Just embrace it.
I mean, I would do eye for an eye with that. Like, I would just take my ink and say, open up your purse right now.
Pour it in her drink. Be like, no.
Like there's been a power shift in this relationship and we need to get back. That's
We need to
crazy.
balance this out. Yeah.
Was that at the end of class at least? I hope.
Not really. No.
How do you even like go on with?
She was like a trooper. Like she was like, like, oh my God, it happens, whatever.
It happens.
I was like, I've never seen it happen. I've been doing this for 6 years and I've never
God.
seen this happen.
Oh,
Tough one. It was a tough one.
well, hope I get to see you more when you're traveling to Boston.
I know. I'll let you guys know for sure. Cause that's part of it too, is like, I want to just get out a little bit more and like be intentional about the travel and like see people while I'm doing it. Cause I miss Boston.
We have Dahlia dinner in August, but we need to come up with some fun things before that.
I know. Yeah, we could do something, maybe like a Boston dinner. Cause I know some of the Boston girls have been talking about getting together to do like cards or something, but it's like, let's just get together.
Yeah. It's March. I'm still hibernating. I don't like to I'm almost coming out of hibernation because it's like, well, of course it's rainy today. So not today, but it was like last week, it was like 70 degrees. So it's, it's coming. And then once I'm out of hibernation, that's when we'll just plan something in like a week.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I'm ready. I feel that very much.
Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for being our first guest in the Ink Lounge. And again, we hope people hear about this because it's either didn't record, we have no audio on this. We'll see. I have a good feeling about it.
They could just lip read and just know we're having fun, It's all good.
Oh man. Well, thanks again and we'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Bye. Thanks everyone for listening in today. And if you like what you hear, definitely give us a follow. Have a great week and happy lettering.